everyone, I hope you're all keeping well. You're very welcome to be joining me. Today I'm tying up some perdigons. Just tying up a few for one of my boxes. As you can see there, just working on putting a few in the box there. I always like to have a good selection of perdigons. In this box I'm kind of working on at the moment there. It's not really much in it as compared to my other box, which is, you can see there, is nice and full, bar missing one or two nymphs in it, which I'll replace. But yeah, putting a selection of perdigons together in this box. And the perdigons I'm working on at the moment are Peacock Microglint Perdigons. Really good perdigon to have. Perdigons are a cracking little nymph to have in your fly box when you're nymphing or you're nymphing. Great little nymph, and they work really well. So to begin, I have a Daihaku 301 dry fly hook and device. So I'm using I generally use a dry fly hook for nearly all my nymphs, to be honest, because when you have the bead on it, the bead is going to weigh it down. So so a dry fly hook will suffice. I have a copper 3.5 countersunk bead on it as well, and like I said, it's a Microglint Peacock Perdigon. So this is it's Piscari Flies brand, Microglint Peacock. So we begin by just laying down the usual, just laying down a little layer onto the hook. And you just want to stop where the hook starts to curve, which should be perfect. We'll trim that away. Now for the tail, I'm going to use for this is Coq de Leon. Now you can use, it doesn't have to be cockle. If you don't have Coq de Leon, you can use microfibbits. You can use fibres from a cockhackle, and it can be any colour. It's not important on the colour. So I'm going to pull away about half a dozen little fibres there. Make sure they're all together, all lined up together. So you'll have something like that, and we'll tie it in on top of the hook. And then we can put it back, and that's actually, the length of that there is actually perfect, so I don't need to pull that back much more, as you can see there. So happy enough with that. So just want to secure that Coq de Leon in a little bit better, so I'm just going to come up the hook a small bit and we'll trim it away. And now we're just going to build a taper on the body. So all you do is you just wind up and down, trying to get that taper on the body. So you want to tin at the tail and you want it to start tapering up towards the bead. So you just stay winding and winding. Stay wrapping the microglint onto it. And just be careful, because you want to get a nice taper on it, but you don't want, you want to have a really good taper from the tail working back towards the bead, but you don't want to have down the tail section, you don't want to have it too thick. So I always go from the bead and I always kind of just work back then and just working on getting that taper there. So I stop every so often, just have a little look at it, see how the taper is going, take your time and you can progress then. So like I said, once you start getting the taper, you don't need to go you don't need to go back towards the back of the hook. Then you can work your way from like the middle of the hook up around the torso part of it, and you'll end up with something like that, and that's perfect. That's a good taper now. I'm happy with that there. So what I'll do when I've achieved that taper that I want, I'm just going to whip finish. So just 3 little wraps with the whip finishing tool. Pull tight, make sure it's good and tight, and I'm just going to trim that away. And you can see the taper is on that there, so I'm happy with that. That's a good taper on the nymph, on the body. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to apply some UV resin, and the brand I'm using is Solres. You can see there it's a good brand. It's the one I like. So what we do is, and just be careful with this when you're applying this. Put on a small amounts. I have a paintbrush here. That's what I use. Little artist brush. And like I said, I like to just spread it thin over the body. And what I like to do is like to come in at behind the tail or just under the tail and just put some on there. Small amounts, because it's very easy to get carried away with the resin, and it's very easy to end up with a big out of proportion body with the resin. So just very easy, small amounts just being applied and spread evenly across the body. Make sure and get it up onto that bead as well there. So when you've got, when you've put the resin on it, so we're going to use a UV pen. This is the pen I'm using, it's a UV pen. You can see there, and we're going to set the resin. So we'll just begin by setting the resin by just giving it a blast, twisting the vise, twisting the flying or turning the flying device, and we're going to give it a good blast all around, and that's just set the resin. So that's nice and set there now, perfect. And you can see the lovely taper on it. Resin is set nicely on it, and you have a perfect little perdigon. And there's really nothing to it. It's really that simple, you know. And like I say, once you get into the motion of tying these, you really churn them out, you know, in numbers. And so you won't be long putting a box together. It's like I have some of one I tied earlier. So tying up a batch of them. I'll do various different colours, but it's the Peacock Microglint Perdigon I'm tying at the moment. So that's it. Very simple, a very effective little nymph to have, and a must have in your fly box. So give it a go and tie up a good few of them, and certainly have them and fish them. So look, I hope you enjoy watching that. Certainly, like I said, give it a go, and get a few in your box. So until next time, thanks for watching. All the best.